All right, boss. Welcome to the studio. How are you doing today?
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Take two. No, sometimes we have some problems with this. I don't know why it's been acting up, but the board here. Anyway, sometimes that light flickers and then you just have to kind of reset it and go. But we're back on track.
That's all good. It's still happy to be here.
Still, thank God. But no, LA is just getting hot and people are leaving. Like I don't know how what it's been like for you trying to like have meetings with people, but everyone's getting out of town.
Yeah, it's getting pretty dead in the summer for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me at least, usually it's a good opportunity to travel and then, get to come back in LA in August and get back to business really.
And I'm jealous because you just told me you just before we got onto the podcast that you had just come back from Istanbul.
That's right. Yeah, love this city. I've been around Europe for the past few weeks. Been to Istanbul, the Adriatic Sea. So been to Montenegro and Croatia. Been to Vienna. Yeah, I've been really fortunate in the
Yeah.
past few weeks. Yeah.
I love Croatia and Montenegro. I was doing some filming there actually during COVID also, and I was in Istanbul during COVID, but we got to film in Dubrovnik in the old town when it was completely empty because there were like no cruise ships or anything.
It's
So
very
we
different now.
we it was amazing because all the locals were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're filming in Dubrovnik because there's no tourists." Like we had the whole city to ourselves. That was I want to say that was like or October 2020.
I mean, it feels like Game of Thrones have like changed everything for that city. It's just like everything is Game of Thrones memorabilia now and all the fan tours and everything. It's a packed city, but it's really beautiful. It's great food, great atmosphere. The
Yeah.
Adriatic is really fun.
Where'd you go in Montenegro?
We were in Kotor, in the Kotor Bay,
Yeah.
which is another fantastic place full of history and really beautiful nature there.
I remember we were filming, we actually did a whole episode in Kotar in the Kotar Bay. And I remember it's strange. It's this like beautiful little city surrounded by mountains and the sun drops below the mountains at like 2 in the
That's
afternoon.
right.
So you've got actual daylight for like 3 or 4 hours and then it's gone.
It's a wonderful place, and I don't know if you've had a chance to drive around as well, but like the whole bay is actually really stunning.
Yeah, and Porto Montenegro on the other side as well. The rich people have their yachts.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, the Adriatic is quite incredible. I mean, being French, I hear so many times people talking about the French Riviera and all of these, and then I'm like, just look at the Adriatic. It's so much better, to be honest.
Honestly, the whole French Riviera is too packed. Like I would rather spend a month in Croatia in these small little towns on the Adriatic or on the Italian side even than trying to like nestle into anything on the French Riviera just because it's so packed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the French Riviera is packed. It's same for Greece as well.
Mm.
And the issue they talk so often about the French being rude. They're not rude. They're just tired of tourists. It's like there's so many people going to the French Riviera. They're like, I can't handle this anymore.
Did you see the news about Barcelona just basically telling tourists to fuck off?
I did. Yes.
Spain,
They're
Spain's got some
using water
issues.
guns now and
Yeah.
basically spraying tourists with water. Yeah, it's a shame. It is one of my favorite city, but it's another one that's really struggling with tourism. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? That there's over tourism.
I mean, it's an incredible trend. Like if you look at what Instagram has done and what all your fascinating shows have done, it's really inspired people to travel, which is a wonderful thing.
It's my fault.
It's 100% your fault. It's all about your shows. Um, but really, it is becoming a serious issue. I was in Japan. I work a lot in Japan as well. Japan is facing the same issues in Kyoto. Kyoto is overrun with tourism and they're having to put a lot of regulations in place. It's a serious issue for the tourism industry. Yeah.
Well, that's because the yen was so cheap for, like, the last year, right? Because all the Americans were going there.
I mean, I was in Japan and you would see like Filipinos going to Japan because it was so cheap for them even. It's like everyone in the world was going to Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly changing, but it's still a good attractive place. Yeah.
So we've known each other for a while, just FYI for anyone listening. We've known each other for a while, but I actually haven't, like, really gotten into your background. So let me this is my chance finally, after many coffee meetings and everything like that. So where are you from originally?
Yeah, that's the good origin story. I'm usually on the flip side of it. I'm like usually the one asking the questions and I do the negotiation part, so I'm usually the quiet one. Um so I'm French originally as most of you would have figured out by now. I was born on the outskirts of Basel, which is a really weird place. Basel in itself is overseen Switzerland, but the suburbs of Basel essentially expand across three countries: Germany, France, and Switzerland. And so you have this community, which is called the Three Border Community, which, we used to have like free roaming. That was even before Europe opened the borders and everything. But we used to have, as part of this Three Border Community, free roaming across Switzerland and Germany and France. And so I was born just outside of Basel, really in that place, in a region called Alsace, which is another weird place. Obviously Alsace was disputed during World War One and Two, and became part of Germany for a long time. So it's a place with strong identity and strong pride.
Mm.
Not technically French. Well, actually, it is French, but culturally, it doesn't feel like France, really.
That's crazy. Like people don't really remember that Europe used to be a mess, and that actually, like, in between all the wars and after the wars, people were just kind of drawing lines in the sand pretty randomly,
Yeah.
and countries have grown and shrunk over that time. And that whole area around Basel is crazy because you can be like taking the train through Switzerland, and then all of a sudden you get like Deutsche Telekom reception
Exactly.
from Germany, and then you get the
Exactly. Yeah.
French Telecom, and then you're back on Swisscom, and you're just kind of bouncing around all the borders there. It's crazy. And before what? Before what was it, like 2010? The Switzerland finally opened the borders to the Schengen visa area, because before then you had to show your passport in and out of Switzerland. So that whole area must have just been a mess.
Well, I had a funny situation that the Basel airport is actually on French land, and when you land in Basel, I don't know if you've ever been there, but you land in Basel and you have two exits. You can go out in France or go out in Switzerland.
Are you
So you
serious?
like go out of baggage claim, and you have a sign going like French exit, Swiss exit.
I never knew that.
And we had this argument. I was living in London at the time. My wife is Russian
Hmm.
and married to a French citizen. She could travel to France, but she couldn't travel to Switzerland at the time. And we flew to Basel, and we got to the airport in London, and we had this argument at the gate where we were telling them that we were flying to France, and they were like, "No, no, Basel is in Switzerland, so you can't fly." And we kept arguing like, "No, we are going to Basel, but we're going to the French land. We're going, out on the French exit." Sadly, they did not let my wife go on that plane, so I had a wonderful trip by myself
Oh my God.
back home. But yeah, it's one of those really weird place where, to your point, it's just random lines drawn, but you still feel, 100 years later, 80 years later, you still feel the impact of the war, really.
Yeah, that's wild. Because yeah, from Zurich to Paris, Basel's I think the first big stop, and then there's one more stop on
That's
the
right.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
done that trip a few times. So I mean, let's okay. So you're born kind of on the
Just
outskirts of
outside
Basel's.
Basel, yeah.
What was early life like? I mean, what did you study in school? Did you get into any extracurricular activities?
Uh,
I'm just trying to get to this stage of like, how does anyone decide to make fucking television? Like, how does anyone get into entertainment? And like,
That's a good point.
what are those origin stories?
Yeah, I mean, I think my origin story is probably the same as many people. The place I grew up in is not the most inspirational. My dad was a factory worker his whole life. My mom did cleaning on the sides. Pretty what you could call quite stereotypically working class family.
Hmm.
Um, the only thing I did during my childhood was play soccer or football for me back in France. That's kind of really the only thing you could do back then. There was literally nothing else. And
How many people were in the town you grew up in?
I want to say 20, 30,000 people.
Hmm.
It's really just sleeper town. It's basically for all the factory workers that work in factories in Switzerland, but end up residing in France because it's cheaper. It's
20, 30,000. So same like LA.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Same size as LA, really.
Um,
Um, and so really the only thing to do there was play soccer, which is what I did for most of my childhood.
Mm.
And I was doing okay, but soccer is like a deep, deep part of our culture in France. It's like you can't. I said to my wife the first time she came to my family, I said, "You can talk about anything, politics, religion, that's all fine, but just don't talk soccer. That's gonna get people really upset."
it's the total opposite here.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
What was your local team then?
Well, actually, so I support AS Monaco.
Mhm.
We didn't really have a local team. AS Monaco, particularly in 96, 97, was like the big team. and I ended up supporting that team. I still do to date. I still go to Monaco when I can and go and watch a game.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, soccer's been a big part of my journey.
mhm.
And then at about 12, I was 12 or 13, which is probably way too young for that, but 12, 13, I ended up seeing Ice Watch Shut.
Oh, really? Wow.
I was really young for that. Um,
Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman,
that's
and
right.
directed by,
Stanley Kubrick.
his final movie.
His final movie,
Mm,
yeah. Um, to be honest, before that, I think I didn't know much about movies. You'd watch the evening shows here and there, watch the big popular movies, the big comedies, and this and that. Um, but Kubrick and Ice Watch Out was the first one, like, big movie that
mhm,
I saw. And again, 12, 13, which is probably, like, illegal here.
probably.
Um, and that changed everything for me.
Mhm,
I saw that and I was like, "Wow, this is different. How can I do that? How can I be part of that?"
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, you gotta get the hell out of France.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, that was the biggest part. Um, and I quickly tried to figure out I tried to understand everything. I've watched every single Kubrick movie and became quite obsessed with his work, really. Um, and quickly realized, like, I wasn't cut to be a director, I wasn't cut to be a creative. I was like, "Okay, what else can I do in there?" Producer.
Mm.
That's interesting. What does producer do? Oh, okay. And so
Being a producer is easy. All you need to have is, like, obsessive compulsive disorder, and you'll be fine.
it's exactly that. Yes,
Details, details, details.
it's exactly that.
No.
And so quite quickly on, I realized I wanted to be a producer. And I worked really hard to get my way out of that part of France. Um,
What did that entail? Like, did that entail you, like, wanting to go to university in a different part of France, or wanting to did you have relatives in other parts of the country? Like, how do you get out of small town France when
there's
you're like 16, 17?
there's a few aspects of that. One of the particular aspect of again of growing in the suburbs of Basel is the fact that um, you essentially, particularly in the beautiful town I grew up in, you're essentially made to go work at the factory by the time you're 20. And so everything is made for that. And the factory is being in Switzerland, you have to learn German.
What were they making?
Random parts. That's all I can tell you. My dad, for instance, worked for 30 years in a factory doing plumbing parts.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
that's pretty much what it is. And I spent all my summers and holidays working at the factory, being up at 3 a.m. and going to the factory and doing plumbing parts.
Because Basel is known for pharmaceuticals, right? Like,
Yeah,
these days
absolutely.
and Bosch and all these
Yes,
companies.
that's right.
Because I've been there a few times for some work trips and stuff like that, and there's so much wealth there, and it's all, like, the
Yes.
Swiss pharmaceutical hub of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Basel is it's an incredibly wealthy part of Switzerland, which is an incredibly wealthy country in
Mm,
itself. There's a flip side to that, obviously. As you can imagine, they have factories, like all factories. There's a lot of immigrants working there.
mm,
So there was a lot of French and refugees from the war in Yugoslavia, so Kosovars and Serbians and Croatians as well that immigrated to Switzerland. So that's kind of the communities I grew up in, and back then in Switzerland, I could start working at 14. And so from 14, I started doing my summers and holidays in factories in Switzerland. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. That was the revelation. That's what told me, like, I definitely don't want to do that. I need to find my way out.
Mhm,
Um, and so one of the hardest part is the fact that de facto you learn German because you have to go work at the factories in Germany. So learning English was like step number one.
mhm,
I went to university in pretty random parts of France, in southern France, and then in the center of France, just south of Paris. Quite uneventful. I mean, I did manage to study media production at university, and I was fortunate enough that university is free in France, where I didn't have any student loans or anything like that. So I've managed to get education, and I'm very thankful for that.
mhm.
Um,
What was media production like at a French university? Like, did you study how to make, like, actual film and television? Did you learn how to write? Did you learn how to use cameras, or was it more commercial focused? I'm just curious, like, what does media production in French universities even look like? Because, in LA, we've got USC, in New York, we've got NYU. We have the American Film Institute. Like, those are kind of like the big hubs here in the United States. But like, what's media production in
So,
France?
generally in France, film and TV are quite separated. So you have film schools, and there's some wonderful film schools in France. Um, Generally, when you get into media, it's more about traditional broadcast, television, or what they called multimedia, which is really mixed media. Um, and so really when you're studying media, the great part of the university, particularly the one I went in, is the fact that there's a lot of technical learning and there's a lot of almost like semi apprenticeship. So you spend a lot of time actually working with broadcasters, you work on sets. There's a lot of really practical elements which are extremely helpful because as working media, I mean, there's some theory that you have to know, but really so much is about like being on set, doing the job, learning the hierarchies, how sets function. It's a huge part.
I think you learn way more in the moment, like when you're in the field doing actual work.
I had this debate with so many people, and I do see value in university. Don't get me wrong, but I think when you're studying film or media or visual effects, I spent a big part of my career in visual effects, and you get the same questions like, which university should I go to? What should I study? Um, for me, if you're 18 and you like really want to get into media, try to get into it. Like, PAs, try to get assistants, runners, any positions like that. Because understanding those dynamics, building those relations, it's really the most critical. Like, I think for so many, you come out of university with massive student loan debts, and you have no understanding of what the dynamic on set is. And
Yeah.
I think understanding the hierarchies and the dynamic on set is the most crucial part, and that's not something you really learn at university, sadly.
No, and you're talking about like traditional broadcasting and filmmaking. Like like these days, 18-year-olds who want to be in film and television, like they don't even bother going to university. They just grab a camera and start posting on YouTube and stuff like or TikTok. Like it's
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
whole landscape has changed.
Yeah, I mean that's been the hardest part for me. Obviously, I've been in LA now for 7 years. I feel like we've fast forwarded a big part, but
We'll jump back.
yeah, 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 exactly. Um, and really, I've seen the landscape changing so much. Even before that, I was obviously 10 years in London. And I don't know. I mean, we all feel the uncertainty there is in
Mm.
the industry at the moment. It's across all the strands. It's across every aspect. I don't have a particular moment to pinpoint and being like that's the turning point. I think there's a lot of elements that came to play. Obviously, the streamers have changed everything in this industry and in the landscape.
Mhm.
The large mergers and acquisitions, the Fox acquisition was a big part of it. Obviously, what's going on with Paramount and Warner and Discovery and their HBO Max. Um,
Changing their name every
I
6 months.
I just want to make sure I'm still accurate by the time this podcast come out.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it Max or is it Plus or
I
what is it?
believe it's HBO Max as of right now. It might be different in an hour, so I'm sorry if I offend anyone.
Yeah.
Um,
The industry's not going to settle down and really start investing again until HBO can settle on one name for at least 5 years.
well, then we're in trouble. Um, no, really, yeah, the landscape is constantly changing, constantly evolving, and I try to embrace it as much as possible. Even though I do miss, I do miss some of the old fashioned, old school Hollywood. Really,
Yeah, it's gone forever, isn't it?
it feels gone forever. So
So okay, so what? You're 21, 22. You finish media studies at university in France, and then what? What does the French landscape look like for film and television for a young person coming out of university? Is it optimistic? Is it a closed system? Are there any real opportunities? I mean, who's the biggest filmmaker in France? Like Luc Besson,
used to be, yeah.
and yeah,
I mean, look, I left France 20 years ago, so I don't know what the landscape today. 20 years ago, Luc Besson was certainly the biggest, and by far. Um, Look, I mean, there's some really beautiful parts about the French ecosystem. So much of it is based on government subsidies. The flip side of it is so much of it is based on government subsidies.
yeah.
And so it's really hard if you're not part of that clique. It's really hard for young filmmakers or young producers to get out there and do things.
Mhm.
Um, but we do have a wonderful system in France that does support art, and there's a lot of wonderful movies that have been supported by the French CNC, which is the French government fund,
Mm.
essentially. Um, so I think the landscape is pretty difficult if you have a little bit of ambitious, and if you don't come from Paris, if you're not part of that inner circle in Paris. Paris is, I mean, it might look like a big city, but it really is a small town. It has, the same groups, really. And so when you're coming quite out of nowhere and being like, "Hey, I want to be a film producer," it's really quite difficult.
Mm.
Um, and so, I never choose the easiest path. So decided to move to London and being like, well, I know I don't speak a word of English. I know I don't know anyone in the industry in London, but I figured it out.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, the language barrier plus, just moving to a new country, like, I mean, it was part of the EU at that stage, so I guess it wasn't an issue.
Yeah. It wasn't an issue at all at that stage. It
Yeah.
was still part of Europe. So it was literally like, packing my bag, which at the time I was 20, so I literally just had a bag. Packing my bag, getting on the train to London,
Mhm.
and just arriving in that crazy, wonderful city. I mean, I'm still deeply in love with London for sure.
What was your first step when you got to London? Like, okay, it's like, okay, you've arrived, you wanna produce film and television, like, what is even your first step coming out of, like, what, St. Pancras?
Yeah, I mean, it coming out of St. Pancras, I still actually remember that. Coming out of St. Pancras, I felt a little bit overwhelmed by the size of the city, the activity in the city.
Yep.
Um, I I stupidly tried to send a ton of resumes around, which got completely ignored. I tried to loosely translate my resume, which also was probably a big mistake.
Mhm.
Um, and I actually, within within my first week, had a job interview. Um, just I mean, for a joke, ended up finding this job on what in the UK was Gumtree, which is the equivalent of Craigslist.
Mhm.
Found this weird job posting for a photographer, and it was a French-speaking photographer. So I was like, well, obviously that's perfect for me. Um, and I applied, and like within 5 minutes, I had a response from the guy. I was like, yeah, great, can you meet me? And
What did you have to take photos of?
well, we're getting to that. Um,
Didn't mean to jump ahead.
I so I went to this interview, and honestly, I had prepared like a nice book and everything, printed some nice photographs I had done when I was at university, still, hoping to be creative at the time. Um, and I showed this guy my book, and he looks at it for 5 seconds, like, okay, great. I need you to fly to Greece tomorrow and spend 10 months there. I'm like, well, I just landed in London. I've been here for 2 weeks.
Did you sign up at a lease yet?
No, I hadn't.
Yeah.
And so I um I said yes to the job, not knowing what it was, not just knowing that I had a flight to Athens that was booked for 2 days later. Um, and I ended up as a photographer in Club Med. You may know Club Med, but for those who don't, it's basically a sort of all-inclusive resort in Greece. It's a French group, but they have a few clubs in Greece. And ended up as a photographer there. Like those annoying photographers that take pictures at the all inclusive, try to upsell you with all those ugly photographs. That was the reality of my life. Or yeah, about 8 months, I think I didn't do the full 10.
Mhm.
Um, but it was weird. I mean, it felt like when you live at a resort, it's an incredible life. I mean, it like because it's all inclusive for you as well as staff. So you spend 8 months not having to spend any money. You have everything taken care of. You can drink as much as you want. Well, not as much as you want, but you can drink. Um, drink, eat anything you want. And so for a 20-year-old, that was like a dream job, really. Um, and so then after that stint, coming back to London was like pretty difficult. It was like back to reality, really.
Well, the weather alone would be miserable, right? Like, coming back from, like, a Greek island or something, and then coming back
Exactly.
to rainy, misty, cloudy London.
Yeah, absolutely. That wasn't the easiest time, that's for sure.
Mhm.
But again, London is an amazing city, and I think I've had the chance to really just spend a lot of time in all the great museums and all the great indoor places because it's true. Like I mean, in London, there's a good 6 months where you don't see the sun really for the whole winter. So
Yeah, that's tough.
yeah,
Coming
it's
right from LA.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a reason I'm in LA now. After 11 years in London, I just couldn't deal with the weather anymore.
So you come back from Club Med, and what does that lead to another job? Did the same guy get you another job, or did you kind of change focus at that stage?
Um, well, yeah, I did change focus, unfortunately.
Mhm.
um, Look, I still wanted to work in media. I wanted to work in production at the time. But we're talking about at that moment, '08,
Mm.
'07, '08.
Financial crisis.
Yeah, not the best time for a young 20-year-old coming out and trying to get a job. And so I ended up as a dishwasher working in nightclubs and bars in London.
Mhm.
I kind of worked my way up and ended up managing one of one of those clubs in London. So I had a crazy couple of years there, really working in nightclubs and kind of finishing work at 5 a.m. and basically just cross commuting with the 5 a.m. commuters going to work.
That's wild. Like I've always because I traveled abroad when I wanted to get into the film and television world, like or at least kind of the storytelling world in some way, shape, or form. And my journey kind of began in China. And this was when like Shanghai, where I lived, was really cheap. So I was able to like fund my passion while still saving money, while living as cheaply as possible. But for people who want to get into storytelling and stuff like that, who are living in London or New York or here in LA, and they're 20, 21, 22, like there's no way you can support yourself financially in a city like that and still, work on your craft, right? Like
Yeah,
you just
absolutely.
you have to work like 16 hours a day doing something you don't want to do, just so maybe on the weekends you have a chance to grab a camera and go out, because the cost of living is so massive, and that just cuts into your time and your energy and your finances to go out and try to tell stories and try to create.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Mm.
I mean, that's why I ended up spending 2 years in clubs, really. It's when I got back to London from Greece, I really didn't have much in my pockets, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And, working in bars and clubs at the time, I still remember it pretty well, but I was making like £6 an hour, which must be about $7, 7.50 or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, so when you're at that level and you have to cover rent in London and public transportation and all that, there's not much left. And so you do end up doing 15, 16 hours a day,
Mm.
and being quite exhausted after that. So it took me a while to kind of go back into media production. Yeah.
Mhm. And where was that entry point of trying to get back into media production? Like, did you wanna go down to Bristol and, like, work for the BBC? Like, where was how, like, did you have a plan?
I can't say I had a plan.
Yeah.
No, I could sit here and pretend I had a big master plan, but I really didn't. The
No
whole
vision board?
no vision board, nothing like that. It was just like wake up in the morning, try and figure out how to survive until the end of the day. Um, and so I think for me, it was just about trying to build connections, meet people. That's the great part about walking clubs and bar. You meet a lot of people,
Mhm.
even though they're too drunk to remember that they met you the day after. Um, uh, Really, it's like trying to build those connections, like sending a ton of resumes, and then you realize sending resumes don't really work. But I really I really ended up loving some particular strands of the industry. Like during that phase, I was trying to figure things out, and so like um, any young aspiring filmmaker in that sense, you end up producing shorts and different types of shorts. I ended up really falling in love with the process of animation and visual effects as well, but particularly animation. Um, and ended up really randomly sending a resume to a small animation studio and getting that job as a young producer. And so really that was my lucky in.
That got you out of the nightlife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
That's wild. So you kinda fell in love with animation, found an animation studio, and were just kinda lucky enough that they hired you because you had no experience at that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had obviously a bit of experience through my various apprenticeship during French university, but really nothing
Mm,
quite tangible. Um, I was lucky to be at a time where I feel like we were slowly recovering from '08, and people were trying to be active and hire people. Um, so it was really a good opportunity after a couple of years that were pretty difficult. Yeah.
mm. Wow. And I mean, so did you like working at the animation studio? Like, did that fulfill your passion in some way, shape, or form?
It did to a certain extent. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a really small studio. And so in this kind of studio, there's a sort of DIY approach. When you're the producer, you're also the office manager, you're the secretary, you're everything essentially.
Mhm.
When it's a studio of like 15, 20 people, you kind of end up running the studio. Um, and quite quickly, I ended up jumping to another studio that, essentially was like an innovation studio, called Unit 9, and they're still around, and I still love these guys. Um, but Unit 9 was a great opportunity for me because that was a studio that at the time had an incredible attitude towards innovation and towards just saying like, yeah, we're gonna do it,
Mhm.
whatever. And so throughout like just innovation projects, new products coming out to the market, or just like advertising brands coming to us and being like, we want to do something that's never done before. And Unit 9 was just stupid enough to say yes all the time, um, and really built their reputation on that. And that was like honestly the best years of my producing career.
I mean, what was Unit 9 making? Like, what kind of animation? Like, were they making commercials? Were they doing films or shorts or like television shows?
So there was so many different things, so many different strands within Unit 9. I think generally people would call Unit 9 anytime there was an element of innovation. So be it across a show, across commercials, across just generally innovative projects. And particularly at the time, there was a big phase around this birth of virtual reality. And so there's a lot of demands for people trying to create virtual reality content, being original or branded content. And so we've had the chance to produce, yeah, really incredible content across a wide spectrum and really try to push the limits all the time.
That's wild. And that was your second job. So
Pretty much, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's crazy. So, I mean, so at that moment you were just like, okay, this is going to be the rest of my life?
Um, I mean, pretty much. I, I think Unit 9 has an incredibly intense pace, so it's hard for someone to sustain that pace for a very long time.
Hmm.
You get thrown onto a ton of really innovative projects. And they do Yin Nine just culturally tends to trust junior people, just really talented and junior people. Um, and so I very quickly progressed and ended up being an executive producer after a few years at Uni 9. Um, but that's where I really built a big part of my career, built a big part of my portfolio, ended up working on incredible projects all over the world.
Hmm.
So I'm very thankful for my days at Uni 9, yeah, for sure.
And then where'd you go after that?
Well, um, so we are talking, towards my end of Unit 9, we are talking about the wonderful Brexit. Um, and
That was a
so,
shit show, wasn't it?
I mean, it wasn't the best for sure.
Hmm.
Um, it, it's it was heartbreaking at a personal level, just feeling like I had worked so much in this country and felt like I had contributed so much, and suddenly felt like they just didn't want Europeans anymore.
So just on a technical level, like on an just trying to understand, like, so you're on a French passport working in London, which is fine when the UK is part of the EU, but then when UK doesn't, like, breaks away from the EU, are you then able to get a work visa and stay and work in your job in the UK, or were you like on the edge of having to go back to France?
No, so they had a transition phase, and during the transition phase, you could essentially apply for what was a settled status.
Mhm.
And so essentially, if you had applied for this and proven that you were in London at the time of Brexit, you could basically stay in the country. I don't know how they operate now with the rest of Europe, I know they still really appreciate and need European immigration, so I'm sure they have programs in place for that. Um, but yeah, I mean, Brexit was really wild and interesting times to live in London.
Yeah. So my brother was in London this at the same time you were, and I think he left in 2018 or 2019, just before COVID, actually. But he was telling me like, because he was an entrepreneur, he was trying to raise money for his business and all these other things, and he just said like once Brexit was around the corner, everyone stopped investing. No one was spending money. Everyone was just sitting on their hands, waiting to see what the hell was going to happen next. And he's just like business ground to a halt for like years. I mean, for businesses that were UK run and focusing on UK customers, nothing changed, right? Because
Yeah.
even if it's Brexit, the business still goes on. But for any cross border businesses or importing and exporting or anything like that, like his business was a coffee company, like, no one knew what the price of anything was going to be. It's a little like now with the Trump tariffs. Like everyone's just waiting, like, who's going to pay these extra fees? Are we going to bear it? Are you going to bear it? Are we even going to be able to get product into Europe after this? Like, no one knew what was going on, and it just destroyed his entire kind of, the way he wanted his businesses to progress. It like everything just ground to a halt.
It certainly became difficult.
Yeah.
And at the time, for me, again, I um, I was very happy at Unit 9 during my days at Unit 9. I think I was just at that point where when you produce a lot of high end content for sustained periods, you end up quite burnt out or pretty close to burnout. And I ended up getting approached for an incredible position with essentially a it's an agency within the United Kingdom called the Digital Catapult, and the Digital Catapult is government funded and it's an innovation arm that's part of Innovate UK. So it's part of the innovation sort of branch of the British government.
Mhm.
And Digital Catapult is essentially in charge of leading innovation projects within the country. And so, as part of that, I joined particularly to look after immersive projects and creative projects and try and support with programs and activities within the UK that would help to boost the economy in the UK, that would help to support startups in that ecosystem, to try and support investors that are looking to invest in the creative sectors in the UK. Um, for me, I think, in a post-Brexit world, having a Frenchman advising at a British agency was like too much of an irony to not take the job.
Right.
And so I ended up taking this position and really enjoyed it. It was to a certain extent far from producer, but also really close to production because you essentially, in positions like these, you set up studios, you set up facilities that can help production companies, that can help startups, that can help technology companies to really thrive in the UK.
Mhm.
And so that developing these kind of programs and activities was really interesting. Yeah.
That's wild. So you had like a real overview of the whole industry, and you started to like that must have been amazing to network, right? Because you would have
Yeah.
known who everyone is and what everyone's doing.
Yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, it's amazing for networking. It's an amazing chance to have a global perspective. Because obviously, if you are within a production company, if you are within a studio, you have a kind of narrow view of what's going on within your studio. You have no idea fully what's going on within the industry.
Mhm.
Um, but having that opportunity was fantastic. And so you kind of, you stay really close to the ecosystem. You spend a lot of time talking to startups, talking to investors, talking to all that economy, all that side of the economy, and then on the flip side, having to do a lot of talks with ministers or various branch of the government to try and explain what is going on within the industry. Yeah.
In your mind, does the UK government really like do they really get filmmaking and television? Like, do they really understand how to support it? Like, because so much is going on now with government subsidies here in the United States and production leaving the UK. There's production leaving LA because it's too expensive to film here, whether it's going abroad or whether it's going up to Canada or whether it's going to New Mexico or Nevada or Atlanta, like Georgia. It's interesting to see like how some states are adapting and really chasing the business and how other states just don't care. I'm just curious, like in your experience in that position dealing with government ministers and stuff like that, did they really embrace the film and I mean, what was this, like 2012, 2014? Like, did they really embrace film and television and try to really build a hub in London for it? Because London's the hub of so many things.
For sure.
Like, you know, like people always joke like New York is finance, LA is entertainment, but London is like finance, entertainment, antiquities, museums, like,
And it's all strands of entertainment as well. It's Broadway as well as Hollywood, you know?
there's just so much going on in London. I'm just curious, like like did these ministers and people you were chatting with even have any idea what was going on in the film and television space?
I I think they do. Obviously, governments have changed across so many years and decades. So it's hard to know what's going on actually today. Um, but I think they've managed to develop really good facilities or support companies that are developing really good facilities. You think of Pinewood, you think of studios like that, studios up in Belfast as well in Northern Ireland, where parts of Game of Thrones were shot. Um,
And the Pinewood's been doing all the Star Wars stuff too, right? So
Absolutely,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, They are also trying to be really proactive in providing subsidies to the visual effects industry, which is a big industry. Um, Whether or not that supports the economy and whether or not that's benefit to the VFX industry is a very different debate.
Mhm. So okay, so we're now, I guess now we're kind of like getting towards the end of your stay in the UK.
That's right.
So what was your last job in the UK?
So that actually was my last job in the UK.
Okay.
Um, I think as much as I absolutely loved um, my position within Digital Catapult, I just missed the intensity of production, the thrills of production. Um, and so I was in conversation with a studio called The Mill, which was part of the Technicolor group, which has, a, a good bunch of visual effects studios together, The Mill, NBC. And so it kind of operates across really commercials, episodic features. And so I ended up joining The Mill in Los Angeles and moved to LA. It's been 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um,
That's wild though. You missed production so much after being burnt out. It's true, isn't it?
oh,
It's
it's
like
a
it's
sin.
so addictive, isn't it?
It's a sin, really. It's horrible. Yeah, I mean, it's when you're in production, you keep complaining. The hours are long. You're tired. You're burnt out. You want a day off. The second you have a day off, you're like, I can't wait to get back.
Mhm.
It's really difficult. I still have a very conflicted relation with production. I love production as much as I hate it.
Mhm.
It's all about trying to find a healthy balance, but I also just don't think I have the healthy balance in me. I'm kind of a all or nothing kind of guy.
I think anyone in storytelling and content creation is an all or nothing kind of person because you kind of have to block out every single thing in your life for long periods of time to create something that people will really value. I think like I don't like when everyone's talking about balance and being holistic and and taking downtime with busy time and all that. None of that matters if you're in production and you're like a storyteller because I just feel like you're just riding the extremes. You're in production and things are going crazy forever and the rest of the world doesn't matter, and then you're out of production and then you're like trying to recover, you're a little depressed. You're coming out of this like big adrenaline rush of being in production and then you just drop down into nothingness. And then you sit there for like a couple months until you get a chance to go into production again. And it's
That
just it fucks with your mind so much.
that the depression
Yeah.
afterwards is a very real thing that
Oh,
I feel like not many people talk about. Like, you can see it now on social media. If you spend some time like posting something, you're like, oh, people are gonna like it. No one likes it. You feel a bit depressed.
yeah.
Well, imagine that when you spend 5 years on a production, the production finally comes out and it flops. And you're like, I've just spent 5 years of my life on this. And it's not just the time spent, it's the emotion, it's the belief that what you're doing is actually good.
Yeah.
It's really hard emotionally. It's a big emotional roller coaster as well as physical. And yeah, it's not talked about enough, I
Not at
feel.
all. No, not at
Yeah.
all. It's wild. Like, because I remember the biggest things for me was the tough rides motorcycle shows I make. So I would go out like, so for example in Brazil we went out for 60 days in Brazil. We rode all around the country. It was like 14,000 kilometers, which is what, like 9,000 miles or something. And and then the moment it's done, you're tired for like a day or 2, and then you go home, and then you're just sad for months because, like, you're not like, the adrenaline's gone and the endorphins are gone, and you're not meeting new people every day, and you're not riding a bike, your motorcycle, through new places, and you're not engaging with new information every day, every day, every day. And when you do that, it just becomes so addictive.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, it's an incredible feeling, having all of this come out, and then again, seeing something flop, for example, is just so difficult. I mean, I don't know if you obsessed with reviews, if you ever read reviews or ever read comments online.
I try not to. Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, because otherwise, it's a big emotional ride. Um,
I'm big on the posting and ghosting. It's just like post it and then just try to disappear. And like it's hard because if you're not super big, you want to engage with your fans and friends and people who follow you and kind of deal with problems or people who don't like it and but honestly, it just kills you. Like you're better off just posting and walking away from it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And obviously, I spent a good part of my career in various studios as executive producer, and so as an executive producer, you kind of managing the business side of things. And so you're really managing the reception of things, like tracking social media posts, trying all kinds of data about productions to show if a production has been successful or not.
Yeah.
That's part of your job. And so unfortunately, like I try to put the emotions away now from it. Um, but it's still hard.
Very hard, very hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so so what was the company that you joined, which you then you got you into LA?
So I moved to Los Angeles to join a company called The Mill, which was a wonderful visual effects studio, part of the Technicolor Group,
Mhm.
and sadly collapsed as part of the Technicolor Group a few months ago. Yeah,
Oh wow, okay.
yeah. I mean, it's the nature of the visual effects industry. It's really it's boom and bust. We've seen so many great big visual effects studio thriving through the years and then completely exploding and disappearing. Um,
Even regular production studios, I mean, they just don't they you know what they do is they just don't they keep building up bigger, bigger, they keep borrowing money bigger and bigger, they keep trying to get bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden the work stops and they can't manage their debts, and then they just go bankrupt or sell themselves at pennies to the dollar to someone else. It's crazy, the boom and bust cycle of, like, the visual effects, the production companies in LA, it's a wild ride.
It's exactly that, and particularly for visual effects studio as well as some of the large size production companies, you're relying on so much staff. It's not a one man band. The visual effects studio is hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, in the case of Technicolor and the Mill. And so when the music stops, it's very quick to collapse because you're talking about millions and millions of dollars on the line.
Mhm.
And between COVID, between the strikes, between so many elements that have changed the landscape in the past few years, it's been really difficult for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fucked up because 7 years ago you moved to LA. That would have been like 2017, 2018. And then just when you're getting yourself up and running, just when you're getting yourself going and starting to feel like you've got some understanding of how things work in LA, COVID hits.
Yeah. It was exactly that. I have to say I feel thankful for my COVID years. Simply because I think it reset a lot of things for me. A lot of people have said that, obviously, but in my case, I used to be at the studio at like 7, 8 a.m. I used to stay at the studio until late. I wasn't seeing my kids at all. Only on the weekends if I wasn't working on the weekends. And with LA, it's long commutes as well, so it's hour long commute if not longer. Um,
Thank you for coming from the west side today, by the way.
that was actually a very easy commute. Um,
Very good.
And so for me, COVID kind of reset everything and really helped me to spend more time with the family, spend more time with the kids, and get to reset the priorities really.
Hmm.
So that side was great. But aside of that, obviously COVID has been you know, incredible. I mean, it's only 5 years ago. I feel like we talk about it like it was 50 years ago, but yeah, COVID was only 5 years ago.
I'm still really angry actually. Like I haven't really come to terms, I think, or made peace with everything that happened in like the last 5 years just because it's been so disruptive. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who had it way worse than I did. Like my whole production company fell apart. Like we couldn't keep anyone on anymore. Like we were grounded, right?
Yeah.
Because I either had to, in order for my company to move forward, I either had to be in a room with 500 people giving a talk, or be on an airplane to Papua New Guinea to film for 3 weeks, hiking through the rainforest, and none of that was happening. So it just fell apart, and nowadays, like, I talk to people about, COVID, and these are people who have lost their companies, who may have got divorced or whatever. Like, everyone's, has an interesting story, not always positive, and no one's like angry. They're just like, "Oh yeah, it happened," And I'm like, "No, like, did it happen? Like, what, like, why did the world react and overreact perhaps in such a unique way where entire industries were shut down for years?"
Yeah, I mean, look, we still feel the impact of COVID to a certain extent. I feel like
Oh,
uh,
fundraising hasn't recovered at all.
fundraising hasn't recovered at all.
Mm,
To your point, I do feel like to a certain extent, COVID has almost been used as an excuse for reducing budgets within entertainment.
mhm,
I feel like a lot of studios were struggling at the time. They were trying to keep up with the streamers. They were spending a lot on content production. They didn't know how to realign.
mhm.
COVID kind of became a perfect excuse for that. And I feel like obviously the strikes straight after became the second um, the the mm, the second issue really.
The speed bump hiccup,
Yeah,
it was terrible, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
I was here in LA the summer of 2023 when the writer's strike happened in, what, March or April, and then the actor's strike was like June, July, August, or something like that, and it just totally devastated the town, and everyone was out picketing in front of the studios. It was so fucked up, and, like, we hadn't even recovered from COVID yet, and then there's these strikes. Like, it
yeah,
just made no
exactly,
sense.
exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not an actor. They certainly have to fight for their rights, and I completely understand that aspect. The timing was difficult for the industry,
Mhm.
um, and again, I just don't feel like we've recovered. I still, obviously, I'm still very much part of the industry with my new functions, and I just see the very slow pace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I can tell you now that after 5 years of sitting on my hands, the last, like, 2, 3 months, things are finally happening again. Like,
nice.
I'm starting
I'm
to have.
happy. I'm happy for you. I'm happy to hear that. Obviously, I've known you for some time,
Yeah.
and I'm really happy to hear these kind of stories. Yeah.
Well, it's just the response from people, like, because 3 years ago, you would send out proposals and try to raise money and all this kind of stuff, and people would just be like, "No, no, no." Like, sometimes even just one word replies, like, "No," even if you were lucky to get a reply. But now all of a sudden, like, people are like, "Oh, yeah, let's have a chat. Like, tell me about what you're trying to do. Like, maybe we can find a way to integrate or blah, blah, blah." And, at least now there's, like, a dialogue, whereas, 2, even a year and a half ago, people just didn't wanna hear anything to do with any kind of unscripted television, because like you said, the streamers are disrupting everything, right? So what the traditional studios are doing and what the broadcasters are doing is they're completely walking away from unscripted content, and they're just going like, okay, everything has to be premium content, it has to be scripted, there has to be an A-lister, and they're leaving all the other stuff to YouTube, which has been another kind of complete tangent that's kind of occurred since COVID as well.
I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see where the industry goes. When you look at distribution, the landscape couldn't be more different than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, really, I mean, we all feel like traditional broadcast is slowly fading away. Um, you suddenly ending up on this big battle between YouTube creators versus old studios and their streaming platforms.
Mhm.
It's going to be an interesting battle to watch, but yeah, it's really a totally new landscape than it was a few years ago.
So when the firm that you came out here with collapsed, and what did you do after that? Like, how did you respond?
Well, so I had left that studio a little bit before that. I left in early 21. Um, I ended up working with various studios. I worked with an animation and visual effects studio, and I still do produce animation and visual effects content. I really act as an executive producer for that studio. I've worked on live shows as well. Really trying to, as always, bring elements of innovation and technology, which has been the big part of my career. I feel like I usually get involved in productions when there's something that needs to be figured out,
Mhm.
something new. Um, and then more recently, I ended up joining distribution almost randomly, but I was a fan of this streaming service for a long time called New Yonder. New Yonder in the UK was a fantastic platform that was producing and distributing content around travel, exploration, adventures, um, nature documentaries as well. Um,
So what was like it was a streaming platform, like it was like a Netflix for travel and adventure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Primarily based in the UK. They had some audience worldwide, but I knew the founder and creator of that platform. And quite recently, he wanted to move on to essentially be a creative again. He's a creative originally, and so I ended up taking over the platform, and now I'm proudly running New Yonder, and we just launched a few months ago in the US.
Mhm.
And so now we have a sort of niche streaming platform dedicated to travel, adventure, and exploration. Really,
Well, this is brilliant because none of the mainstream broadcasters are interested in this content anymore in any way, shape, or form. It's
I mean,
funny. It's funny, like, you either do a doc, which is, which you can do now, like, around outdoor and adventure, but you have to do something insane, like Free Solo, you know,
yeah.
El Cap, or, that's the kinda doc that might get some attention, but if you don't do a doc and you just wanna make episodic television about amazing places and doing amazing things, there's no one interested at all.
And it's funny for me because when you look at this, there's such a contrast between what the market demands, what people are asking for constantly online. It is about travel, it is about adventure.
Mhm,
To our point earlier on, tourism is really booming at the moment because of that, because of all that wonderful content that you create.
mhm,
And on the same side, for a lot of traditional streamers, this is not the kind of content they're looking for at the moment.
mm.
And so with New Yonder, I'm really excited to bring this kind of content, and bring all the great exploration content, human stories, and really try to have a positive and upbeat tone editorially. It's something that New Yonder was doing really well back then when it was in the UK. Um, but when you look at nature documentaries, when you look at all the work that we have, even around climate change, I think we try to have a positive tone. We try to leave people inspired and excited and have fun.
Mhm.
And I'm really proud of that choice editorially. Like obviously we have some serious documentaries and some more dramatic docs, but generally like we want to feel like hopeful and really like leave audiences with a positive note.
That's amazing because, like, I think we all need New Yonder more now than ever, right? Because I think because you look at brands that we all grew up with and trusted, right? Like Travel Channel. Okay, that
Yeah,
basically doesn't exist anymore. Okay, Discovery Channel. They don't really discover anything anymore. They're just making
they're discovering new home rehabs.
new homes, drag racing, pimping out your cars, like just I don't know where that brand is going or what. And then you've got, National Geographic that doesn't really go out into the world and explore anything anymore. And if they do, it's just like one series a year, and then the rest of it is what recycled old stuff. And again, more cars and home renovations and stuff. It's just like what happened to getting out into the world and showing people what the rest of the world looks like. Because I think, and especially in the United States, this is where it's most needed because this is the country where people are most inward looking and have the least decent understanding of what's going on in the rest of the planet.
It's possible again. I mean, if you look at those two giants and those two brands, and I'm sure the executives within the teams are doing their best with the brand. But you look at Discovery Plus, for example, it just there's so much content out there that doesn't feel like Discovery
Mm,
or like what we used to know as Discovery. And it's really the downside of streaming is the fact that it's just overloading your platform, and so it's really hard to find good content within platforms like these. And Nat Geo obviously is still, I mean, it's a beloved brand. It's like I have all the respect in the world for a brand like Nat Geo. It just feels like that phase of innovation that we turned into with streaming. I feel like they just lagging a bit behind.
Massively. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with National Geographic magazine,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with all the great photographers like Steve McCurry, who shot the Afghan girl with the green eyes, like Michael Yamashita, who did all these amazing shoots in China, kind of inspired me to want to go to China when I was young. Like National Geographic got me out to see the world. And it's just like, okay, so now today, no one reads magazines because they don't really exist anymore. And then you have got these really historic television companies, brands that don't really teach anyone what's going on in the rest of the world. So then you're left to go to YouTube, and YouTube is a fucking free for all. Like as amazing as it is,
Really is.
it's hard to find good shit. Like it's hard to find stuff that's really kind of captivating, without someone just holding a camera in front of their face, walking around. So I think like at some stage someone's going to have to build out or invest and raise up something like New Yonder, which is curated, which has relationships with filmmakers, where people can go out and film amazing stuff and know they have a home for it, and get some kind of rev share, or even get commissioned to do stuff, because it's like I don't know what happened, but the entire travel ecosystem around content production and storytelling has gone. And I've said this a few times on the podcast and people are shitting on me, but I really think like the moment Bourdain died, he killed himself. Sadly, he was a legend. But the moment he passed on, it was like that moment was when authentic travel television disappeared. Because now we got Stanley Tucci, great actor. He's in Italy, love him. Okay, we got a couple other people. They're going to Mexico, Central America. They're cooking, great. But like, where's that raw guy who's troubled, who's just going to go out there and tell you how it is, and not beat around the bush, not work off a script, you know, who can say stuff and not have it affect their next movie. Because all they're doing is using movie stars to make television now, and they don't want to say anything bad because it's going to hurt their next Marvel movie. Whereas Bourdain would go and have lunch with someone and talk about how he used to shoot heroin in this kitchen.
Yeah.
Like where's that rawness and that real, it's gone. Everything's just so polished now, and everything's just so overproduced.
It's a big part of what we're trying to do with Neon. Trying to bring that back because to your point, we're curated. I think that's the number one word. Like at least within the industry, like for us, when we talk to people, I think curation is the number one aspect that we bring up. But we find so many emerging voices, or what we'd call emerging voices, within Vimeo or YouTube, and you find really talented people within there. They just don't fit the mold.
Mhm.
And I think that's the hardest part, and what we're trying to support at New Yonder, because we talk to a lot of filmmakers that would do an amazing short documentary, for example. It's like 18 minutes, and they're like, "Well, that Geo is not going to take that, or
Mhm.
Discovery is not going to take that because it doesn't fit the mold,"
Mhm.
which is ironic considering it's streaming. And so you could easily put it on the streaming platform. You're not trying to fit within a traditional scheduled broadcast.
Sure.
But a lot of filmmakers that come to New Yonder is kind of this new generation that really doesn't fit the mold, is not really being pursued by Nat Geo or Discovery because they don't fit the mold for some weird reasons.
Well, they're not A-list celebrities.
Well, that's true as well. Yes, sadly.
Forget about how long your content is. It's all about who's making it and how many social media followers you have, to promote it, to get eyeballs to it. Like it's become it's become so ruthless. Like I was having a chat privately with someone a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about just Nat Geo and how they've kind of totally fallen off the map. And again, historic brand, I can literally point back to moments in my childhood where I was like, I want to actually go and see that. And then I actually went and saw it. And I was looking at a Nat Geo magazine. But nowadays they're so far off the map. And then when they do produce something, they get an amazing person like Alex Honnold, who soloed El Cap, and he was a brilliant climber, and he's actually a pretty funny like personality. Like he's kind of quirky in his own way. So they take him to Greenland to climb this mountain, and it's called the Arctic Ascent or something like that. But and if it was just a little bit more raw and a little bit more like balls out, like let's go to Greenland and make something happen,
Yeah.
it would have been fucking great. But they just produced the hell out of it. They spent millions and millions of dollars on it, and made it really pretty in a lot of ways. But in a lot of ways too, they watered it down with all that production quality, and like there's no real adventure anymore. Like no one's out there filming stuff. There's never these moments where you're like, shit, I don't know if that guy's going to make it or not. Because they're going to make it because they got a drone in the air, and somehow the drone is connected to the audio, and someone's mixing those two things while they're there. and they got a helicopter to come and drop stuff off, and then another helicopter to come pick stuff up,
And the broadcast van that's cutting everything together,
and it's
like,
ridiculous, and it's in Greenland.
spitting out the episode.
Yeah, like where are the guys that are just out there, and the answer is YouTube. But for people who are making broadcast quality stuff, there's no outlet anymore because YouTube might not r- generate enough revenue, for creators to go out and make like a broadcast quality show. They might be something good enough for a 360 cam or a GoPro, or maybe like a small SLR. But when you're talking about collecting audio, when you're talking about wireless mics, when you're talking about doing all the things you need to do to get to broadcast quality, like the money just doesn't come back.
I completely agree with you, and I think again, talking about the transition to streaming for platforms like Discovery and Nat Geo,
Mm.
there used to be like a real path for filmmakers within Nat Geo, for example. Like you almost had like a Nat Geo Academy, if you see what I mean, for
Yeah.
filmmakers. You don't like with that streaming era, you don't really have that phase anymore, and so that's really what we're trying to support. We're trying to find good emerging voices, and again, being transparent, primarily we find them from YouTube, from Vimeo, and try and support them when they want to do documentaries that be more professional. We try to, you know, help them find a professional crew and keep the adventure. But to your point, it's like we what we're trying to do is keep the essence of what they do,
Mhm.
because in so many cases it can be overproduced, and that's the biggest mistake you can have. You look at Bourdain, for example. The greatest television moments with Bourdain is like when he's sitting at a table with someone and
Mhm.
having a chat.
Totally unscripted.
Exactly.
Mm.
And it's like you don't want a multicam setup at that moment with
Mm.
all the lights and everything.
Yeah.
It's like it has to be raw and natural.
Yeah. No, it's true. But you know what? Like, again, I don't, I couldn't imagine being an executive at a Discovery Channel or a Nat Geo. And because I would be terrified for my job, because, you know that if you spend a couple $100,000 or $1 million on a project that might, where you've got people going off to random parts of the world and you have no idea if they're going to make it back or not, like that's on your head, right? So if you're terribly afraid of your job, the best thing to do is to just overproduce it and raise the budget to a point where there's nothing else being made that year. This is the one thing, and then you just pile on the money and pile on the personalities and get the A-listers or whoever you need in it, so that even if it fails, people are like, well, I mean, we did everything we could do to make that successful, which is really just spending money. And then they can kind of like wipe their hands of it and then not be blamed.
Yeah, and look again. Obviously, I've been an executive producer at various studios for a long time, and I do have a lot of love for position. I think it's really to your point. It's a position of fear. It's like, we've never had so much pressure on the entertainment industry. We've never had so much pressure on the financials. It used to be very different, and so now that everything is driven by committees, everything is driven by financials. There's a lot more scrutiny on the shows. There's a lot of pressure again from the YouTube eras and the Vimeo filmmakers. It's a lot of pressure to handle for executives at places like Discovery and Nat Geo.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to deny that aspect. It's a difficult time for them. I just that's I mean that's why I love Yonder. I don't have big financial ties to big giant corporations with big shareholders. I get to decide whatever I want.
Are you subscriber? How do you generate revenue? Is it subscriber based or is it ad based?
It's it's subscriber based.
Mhm.
Let's put it this way. Do we do have considerations for an ad based model in future.
Mhm.
I just think that the content that we have, the curation that we have, people just don't want to deal with ads, and so we have a clean, simple subscription model. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. And I mean, do you think at some stage, like a niche streaming platform like New Yonder will actually be able to bring on corporate partners or attract enough eyeballs or attention that you actually might be able to commission something someday?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the niche streaming platforms have started doing that already.
Mhm.
In the case of us and Yonder, I think we are getting pretty close as well. There's a lot of eyeballs on niche streaming platforms at the moment.
Mhm.
I think there was kind of a big turning point about 6 months ago, where really everyone's realized that niche streaming platforms are really quite performing well. Um, there's the New York Times did a few articles on niche streaming platforms like Hallmark Plus or Shudder or BritBox or any of those platforms, and so there is a lot of attention on Yonder. I think the hardest part for me is finding the right partners,
Mhm.
because I don't want to be in a Discovery or that Geo situation in future. You know, I want to bring the right partners on board that understand the mission of Yonder, because a lot of content we produce, essentially a part of our revenue goes back into eco projects around the world, conservation projects around the world, and we try to film documentaries around those projects. So kind of a full loop where those documentaries end up back on you yonder, and you kind of get to see directly where your contribution is going.
Yeah.
So we're trying as much as we can to support, curate, and fund contents like this. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's crucial because no one else is doing it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's exactly that. There's again this what we see as this opportunity in the market. I think there's a big demand from audiences, and so just trying to give the people what they want.
Yeah, and the alternative is going out and trying to do it on your own on YouTube, which is brutal because the YouTube algorithms and ad share and all that kind of stuff, like it just doesn't add up for like 95 or 99% of YouTubers. Like they just can't raise the money based on viewership to go out and create content. Like they're either big enough where they're able to bring on a sponsor, and that's the majority of the money that they get, and then they can go out and do something and then put it on YouTube and they'll get some eyeballs, great. But the rest of the people out there are just kind of going out on vacation, self-funding things and putting stuff up and kind of breaking even and having that be like their hobby.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a hobby at this point, and I think the hardest part for me is when I see YouTubers in that category. What I struggle with is the fact that I do feel like their content is driven by algorithm.
Mhm.
Any changes in the algorithm, they quickly have to pick it up. They try to have to change and adapt their content to try and stay up, just to stay alive.
But
Because
what
like we're not talking for the majority of these guys,
Mhm.
they're talking we're talking about a few $100. Like there's very few YouTubers that are making millions out of YouTube.
Sure.
But even the guys making a few $100 to keep those $100, they have to change editorially their content to fit YouTube and to fit the changes in algorithm.
But that means basically that if you're a storyteller, you're changing your style and your message in your filmmaking all the time, which is completely the wrong way to build an audience and to build trust with your audience. Because the whole point of building trust with your audience is that you go out and you basically do the same thing all the time with the same authenticity and the same intensity and the same kind of passion and desire, and that you're going out with those key um ideals in mind every time you go out to create something or to tell some story. You can't, like, you're not just making content with other people in it or creating shows that you think will pick up on the algorithm. Like we're talking about travel and adventure stuff. Most people are out there filming themselves. So, when the algorithm changes, you're not going to start making animated adventure content or start using puppets or something like that. Like it's your face and you have to be out in the middle of nowhere doing hard things, and that's what your audience wants. But if the algorithm goes against you, you're finished.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exactly that, and that's why I hope Neon can be an answer for that, because what we want is curate good content,
Mm.
but then for the filmmakers to keep control and keep this editorial aspect,
Yeah.
because again they're building a relation with their audiences, and I find it really sad. Some of the YouTubers that I follow, even for myself, you can see like any change of algorithm, they suddenly changing their style and the content's getting completely different. And you look at, over a 5-year period, like the content from 5 years ago is completely different from what it is now. And
Mm.
that's all driven by algorithm, which I find really sad.
I do get some excitement on YouTube every now and then when some people who make long form content, and not podcasters by the way, but some people who make long form content do break through. And it's so rare where you can see like a 90-minute, or a 45-minute show or a 90-minute doc or something like that actually break through and get hundreds of thousands of views or millions of views. Like I just feel like it's so like, and this apart from all the informational stuff, like there's always the business information stuff, But when it comes to like real travel and adventure, there's so few um, storytellers and content creators that actually break through doing exactly what they want to do.
And it's funny because even that for YouTube is kind of a new trend. If
Mhm.
you look at even 2 years ago, long form just wasn't cutting it.
No.
Like, no one was able to do long form. 20 minutes was like long form for them.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to see a few more doing long form, until the next, change in algorithm.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens next.
Yeah.
So where do you see New Yonder like this? So where do you see New Yonder going in the next like 1 to 2 years? Like how do you want to ramp it up and be, a safe harbor basically for travelers and adventurers who are out there making great stories?
I mean, we've got a few strategies in place. Really, we're trying to again develop relation with emerging filmmakers. We're hoping to curate, but not just curate, but finance productions as well in future. We've got some great partnerships with film festivals as well, and that's really a great aspect where some film festivals, the Green Screen Festival, for example, in Germany is coming up, and we're going to be doing live streams at the festivals, interviews with the filmmakers, and then the content from the filmmakers at the festival will end up on New Yonder. And so we've got great opportunities like that to connect with the real world, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think connecting with the film festivals is a great idea, right? Because there's always a lot of marketing around film festivals, and
Exactly.
they really try to get the filmmakers to actually talk about their vision and their passion, and people actually listen, which is kind of nice. So I think, yeah, that collaboration with film festivals will be brilliant.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for us, the big aspect of the collaboration with film festivals as well is that we want to be honest about who we are. We want to be honest with our community,
Mhm.
because I think if you're into adventure content, if you're into exploration, you don't want a quote unquote fake brand. You don't want to be lied to. You want to make sure that it's authentic and it comes from people that love travel and exploration. And so, really, the partnership with Film Festival is fantastic because the audiences going to those festivals are really into travel and adventure.
Mhm.
I mean, if you travel halfway across the world to go to a nature dog film festival, you're pretty much into nature documentaries.
You've been sold. Like you're in it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so for me, I find this as a great proof of the honesty that we have as a brand, that we are part of this ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's built by fans for fans.
So you're French and I'm Canadian, and we're here in LA trying to talk about what the non-scripted, television landscape is going to look like over the next few years here in the United States. And I am not optimistic about streamers picking up travel and adventure shows. Like Netflix doesn't want to touch it. Apple actually just recently did a round of they picked up the Long Way Round series. So Long Way Round,
Yeah.
Long Way Down, Long Way Up, Long Way Home, like the 4 series is with, Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman. So they seem to buy into that, and they commissioned the last 2 of them, I think. Long Way Up, where they went from, Argentina up to Los Angeles, and then Long Way Home, where they did a little tour around Europe. But that's the only time Apple has even thought about going into travel, and Netflix has stayed completely away from it. And I'm just wondering, if that tide is ever gonna turn.
It's a possibility. I hope that New Yonder is gonna be a part of that. Like, I hope that we get to prove that there's demand for this. I hope that, we get subscribers coming to the platform and seeing the quality of content. And I get we get a chance to prove to the big streamers that there's a real demand for that.
Well, the educational element of it alone is crucial because, like, when you think about when I was a kid, like, you turn on National Geographic magazine, you'd see someone out in the middle of nowhere learning about something, teaching the audience about something. You pick up a National Geographic magazine, it was the same thing. Like, where are young people today going, and where are schools and higher education? Where do they go to find the stories or the content to educate young people about what's going on in the rest of the world? Like, there's so few locations, and then if you're going to spend hours on YouTube trying to figure out, you know, who the better storytellers are, and then you're gonna have to self curate a list and then put that together and then show it to a class or something like that. But having like a New Yonder where you can just sign up, go in, and say, okay, guys, today we're gonna learn about Mongolia. Because it's part of our history class about the Mongolian Empire, but no one knows what Mongolia actually looks like and how raw and difficult a country it is to actually live in, and how amazing these Mongol warriors were because they rode across all of China and Central Asia and even into the Middle East and conquered all of it. Like, but when you close your eyes, you don't even know what Mongolia looks like. So today we're going to see what Mongolia looks like. And here's a story of a man that or a woman that traveled across Mongolia. There, 60 minutes, bang. Like there's nowhere to go for that these days.
It's funny you mentioned that because we do have actually a few partnership with schools. Again, Neondera started in the US quite recently, but we've put a few partnerships with schools in place already because they see the curation of content, they see the quote unquote safe aspect of the content that we propose on Neonder.
Mhm.
So we are hoping really to expand on that. We're thinking even as like general health benefits for employees, like having as part of a corporation package where you can have a subscription to Neonder. I think this kind of content around exploration and adventure is one of the safest content you can have, and really, it's a great opportunity to learn.
And inspire people to get outside,
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
which is massively needed in this country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is really a crucial part. I feel like you know your content inspires so many people to travel and explore the world, and it's been the case for me. I've been inspired to travel and explore really by this type of content.
Mhm.
So I hope we get to do the same with Neonder,
Mhm.
and not just across the US. Like we have wonderful documentaries about the national parks. We have great documentaries about different parts of the US, but also all over the world. Like I want people to see documentaries about regions between Armenia and Azerbaijan and what it is for kids to grow up there and live there. This is the kind of things that I personally find fascinating.
And allow kids in the UK and the US and Canada to actually know where Azerbaijan is on a map,
Yes, that'd be helpful.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it's fascinating, and this is a perfect example because we do have a documentary about kids growing up on those regions divided between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and I think for a kid, for my own kids, it was quite fascinating to see like life of other kids their age in different parts of the world.
Yeah. There's an educational element of this that's being massively missed, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's an inspirational aspect of it. I feel like beyond just the education, beyond just the facts, you're inspiring the next generation.
Mhm.
Do you want the next generation to go out there and explore the world and discover the world and learn about different cultures and try and try and get closer to different cultures?
Mm.
Not think of them as just different and shut them off, but actually like go out there and explore different cultures.
You have to think you have to think so Bourdain did he did what? Like his first show was called A Chef's Tale or Chef's Journey, and then the next one was No Reservations, and then he finished off with Parts Unknown, right? And in each of those shows, he would do 8 to 10 to 12 episodes a year, pretty much on and off on the road full time doing this stuff. And there is not one television series that's being made today that's being broadcast where you have a single host filming in multiple countries a year and exploring it and just talking to people. Like, I don't know whether the broadcasters haven't found the right personality or whether the genre is just finished, but like there's not one show on TV now where there's someone who's week in, week out in a different country, you know, tasting, understanding, talking to people, breaking down cultural barriers, breaking down political barriers, being an ambassador for open-minded people everywhere. There's nothing like that right now. That's crazy.
I mean, some parts of it again relates to risks in producing content like that
Mhm.
because you go into the unknown, and it's the funny aspect of unscripted television. For a lot of executives, when you're trying to greenlight a project, if you're unscripted, you almost want the script,
But
which
it,
is the ironic aspect of the situation.
which is the worst part. Like exactly, how do you do unscripted with? But there's production companies out there that do high quality that have a track record of this. Like you could just get zero point zero in New York to go out and do it. They did it with Bourdain. They've done it with a few other people. You just get them to handle it. But I think the real problem is the talent. Like no one knows what's going on with talent these days. Like is this guy or girl going to have a drug problem? Or are they gonna send naked selfies on to someone who's not supposed to get them, and then there's a huge problem. Like, I just feel like no one is investing in this kind of talent anymore. Like, everyone is willing to overpay for A-list talent, but no one is willing to invest in D-level or C-level talent and build a show around them and rise them up because they don't know what they're getting. And again, it comes to the risk, but you can't just sit on your hands. Like, this is a genre that people, the audience members like me, have loved for decades, and it's funny because I think Bourdain passed in 2017 or 18, and it's now the entire genre is gone. Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, eh, I hope this genre comes back.
Yeah.
I hope again, I hope Neon gets to be part of that.
Mm.
Um, it's a shame, and I really hope I would have an answer on exactly why the genre is not back. But I remember even myself growing up in France and watching French favorite content. We had this one guy in France who would basically travel the world with himself, just a rigged. He had a camera rigged on his shoulder, and then he had basically like a pole with another cam filming himself,
Mhm.
and that was his whole kit. Like he didn't have a camera team, he didn't have anyone, and he traveled around the world, barely spoke English, and just randomly was trying to go and sleep at someone's house. Like that was always his objective. And people like that inspired me to travel. People like that made me discover the world and being like, it's incredible that like a farmhouse in Korea is basically living the same life as I'm living now.
Yeah.
It's the same people, the same aspiration. Like we're all humans.
Yeah. But there's no one telling that story.
No, unfortunately, no.
Yeah. I feel like we're really missing out. Like, I feel like, it's almost like the more our world is becoming connected, the less actual human face to face interaction we're having. And then, of course, we're missing out on all these facial cues, these physical cues and elements and the way people move and talk. And we're not having that engagement with people from other parts of the world anymore.
I mean,
And
that's a massive problem.
yeah.
Like, you've touched about a very serious issue right now because, particularly for the youngest generations,
Yeah.
they just don't get to read cues. They don't get the face to face interaction, and it's the hardest part. It's funny because I talk a lot about education with my wife about our kids. Our kids are 9 and 5, turning 6 soon, and for me, the most crucial part for my kids is not math. It's not English. It's none of these. It's what's going on at recess. Like, I want my kids to have physical interaction. I want my kids to learn to pick up cues. I want my kids to resolve situation with other humans. Particularly, like, we're talking about a phase of AI where AI might disrupt or may not disrupt so many different aspects of our life.
Mhm.
The one aspect that won't change is human interaction.
Mhm.
And so for me, like as kids, like that's the one thing you need to learn
Mhm.
how to interact with humans, how to pick up cues, and how to have those interactions and dialogues.
Who's that? There's that famous investor guy that came out a couple months ago, and he said something. What's his name? He was one of the early investors in Facebook, and he's kind of known for being a total crazy guy. Um, can't remember his name. It'll come back to me at some stage. But he was saying basically like, if you do computer coding, math, anything to do with numbers, even most science and stuff like that, you're going to be out of a job in like 10 years because AI is just going to take over all that stuff. He's like, the only thing that AI is going to take a long, long time to figure out is storytelling and dealing in human interaction. Um,
Isn't it ironic
Mhm.
when you think about the fact that
oh, Peter,
5 years ago,
Peter Thiel.
oh, Peter
Peter
Thiel.
Thiel, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about the fact that 5 years ago, the number one recommendation was like, learn to code.
Mhm.
Like, you have to code. This is like the big aspect of life. And I find it funny, even within entertainment and VFX, where there is a big threat of AI. But I do find it ironic when you look at, the steel workers and all those industries that have gone, and people were like, oh, just pick up another job. And now we're in this situation in entertainment. You look at visual effects artists, you look at computing coders.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's not that easy to get different job.
No, it's not. And I don't know if you saw this, but YouTube just came out um, this week, actually, or last week, and said that they are going to demonetize or not allow people to monetize content on YouTube that is made with AI.
I find that fascinating. Yeah, I love that decision. It feels like the right decision. I'm always wondering why a corporation like Google wouldn't profit from AI content. So I don't know what's behind that decision, but I do really respect and admire this for now.
So I'm on the fence on this. So obviously, like when AI takes the job of a human being, I struggle with that. Like I did a podcast a couple months ago with an animator who worked at Disney for like 30 years, right? And like his job is probably like his. I mean, he's retired all now, but if he was still working, like those animators' job is those days are numbered, right? Like so that
Absolutely.
there's some fear in that sense. But then I also think like there's gonna be a kid, boy or girl, doesn't matter. Like, there's going to be a kid who's going to be like 13 or 14 who's going to put together an entire movie in AI, and it's going to completely change the entire way we think about storytelling. And that is going to happen. And this is going to be a kid with no budget, no A-list actors, nothing. And they're going to find a way to express what's in their hearts and souls and share that story with other people. Because they're limited financially, they're going to be able to use AI and tell something that is going to rock our entire consciousness. And I still, but I feel like that will be worth it somehow. So I'm trying to like juggle
It's a
this.
fair point.
I'm trying to juggle this like old world idea of like, don't use AI to take real people jobs, but then also let's also not discourage the next generation who who's learning how to use these tools better than you and I will ever be able to use them and use them for storytelling, like and demonetize them and not reward them for that innovation. Like that also feels wrong too. So I'm struggling with this.
So do you feel like um a disclaimer might be better?
Yeah, like yeah, like why not a disclaimer at the beginning of the film saying this entire project was made, in AI. And if you want to turn it off, turn it off. And if you want to see what I've created, you can see what I've created. Like
So
remember.
you do have a fair point. And we've seen the digital phase going back, a few years ago.
Mhm,
Um every single phase of change in entertainment has brought new voices.
mhm,
And those new voices have done incredibly well and completely changed storytelling.
yeah,
So you do have a fair point that AI is without a doubt going to bring new voices that will have something interesting to say.
sure.
I think the concern is the pace and the intensity of the content that you can spit out with AI might quickly just overload a platform like YouTube.
Mhm,
We already have too much on YouTube, if you see what I mean.
yeah.
If you suddenly have a lot of subpar AI content that's just there to almost trick the algorithm more than anything else,
Mhm.
YouTube might become a very difficult place to watch content.
But here's the thing, like, okay, so go back 50 years ago, right? Like, what if we told filmmakers that you couldn't paint models and build miniature cities and put them in feature films? Okay, great. You wouldn't have Star Wars. Okay. And then let's say, okay, you're not allowed to use green screen. Okay, fuck, you wouldn't have The Matrix.
That's very true.
So, and at the time, like when these technologies first came out, like the industry leaders and filmmakers, were like, oh, we're not doing that. No, we shoot with real people. We shoot on real sets. We shoot in real cities. We're not painting and drawing these. Like, so like this is just kind of that next level of innovation, and you hate to see people losing their jobs, but at the same time, you can't stifle the next generation of voices that is absolutely going to use this technology.
You're absolutely right on that aspect. And look, so I hold a position as an executive producer for an animation and visual effects studio. AI is part of almost a daily conversations
Must
that we
yeah.
have. And the reality is, at least the way I see it today, and with AI, I feel like I can change my mind on a daily basis based on what I see.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that AI is going to just reshape visual effects
Mhm,
and reshape the animation landscape. But again, there's still going to be a layer of human. There's still going to be a layer needed of craft and understanding of storytelling.
yeah.
Um, it might not be the case in 10 years, but right now, AI is getting better and better at the execution aspect.
Mhm.
but you still need humans to tell those stories.
What are the key elements? So you say you're an executive producer for so this is outside of your New Yonder, your travel and adventure streaming. You say you're an executive producer for an animation, company. So how is AI being used in that company at the moment?
So there's various aspects being run within our R&D department. There's not a lot that's being really quite tangibly being used. A big part is because AI is kind of caught in the legal threats and the legal scares of AI. So on a lot of productions, and we do productions for the likes of Netflix or Paramount or all of these. In a lot of cases, there is a lot of restrictions on the use of AI, for again for legal reasons, and I understand that. I think right now AI is being used a lot on low level tasks, what
Mhm.
we call cleanup, for example, and things like that. When you're talking about removing wires or things like that, this kind of tasks are being really automated and used AI quite a lot. Um, the next phase that we are quite clearly seeing right now is for CG content, and so when you creating a visual effects environment. When you're shooting people over a green screen, the content you put instead of that green screen, that's all CG content essentially. So it's an environment that's being built in CG. And that goes through various phases. So you have modeling, texturing, rigging in case of characters and things like that. If phases like modeling and like quite low level phases within the CG department, a lot of that is being pushed towards AI. um, I feel like the craft of animation is still there to a certain extent. I feel like key creative roles within lighting and shading and things like that are still quite critical.
Mhm.
A lot of the actual building of like environments and building of characters is gonna get pushed more and more towards AI.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and again, it's a question on like, do you want to adapt or do you want to die?
Yeah.
It's the reality. Like, do I want to hire hundreds of people to do a job? Yes, I'd love ideally.
Mhm.
Um,
But the budget never allows for that.
the budget's never allowed for that.
Mhm.
And so the the visual effects industry has been a race to the bottom for so long. Um, going back to government subsidies, I mean that's kind of what kicked off the race to the bottom for the visual effects industry. Um, I see AI potentially as an opportunity to kind of reshape that.
Mhm.
The visual effects studio will have to adapt in terms of size,
Mhm.
and we're talking quite serious downsizing. I can imagine studios of 500 people being 50 in the end. I think the visual effects industry might in future need less workforce, um, and AI would be kind of a companion of that industry.
Yeah. It's happening.
It is. It is. And so, again, like adapt or die. That really is the word.
Yeah. It's funny, like, you take a series like Shrek, very, very popular, or, How to Train Your Dragon, like, those are 2 both, billion-dollar franchises, and whatever version of that kind of animated storytelling that comes out, like, 10 years from now will be, my guess, entirely AI built.
Yes, I mean it's a clear possibility.
Mm.
What we are seeing more and more now from studios and from production companies is give me the budget for today, give me a budget using AI.
Yeah.
And so we are starting to seeing, side by side comparisons and like, okay, we could use this AI tool to build this. And um we also have to be realistic on where AI is right now.
Mhm.
It's not production ready for visual effects. So there's lots of talks around it. I feel like my LinkedIn is full of people claiming that the visual effects industry is dead and Hollywood is dead. Um, the reality is that AI is a good and promising tool.
Mhm.
It's not fully production ready yet.
Interesting. Yeah. It's crazy though, isn't it? Like, did you watch The Studio with, Seth Rogen on Apple Plus?
I haven't seen all of them yet, but I've watched a good part of it. Yes.
In one of the episodes, they talk about AI
Yes,
and
absolutely. It ends up being their downfall.
yeah, and the for the Kool-Aid movie, right? And
Yes.
he's like, yeah, we're gonna do the animation, but with the budget a little tighter and the writers leaving, and we're gonna have to use AI for this like one little part. And then at the presentation at Comic Con or whatever,
Yeah.
he's like, oh my god, I'm worried about the show being racist. And at the end of the day, no one cares about the racism or having the rapper what's his face be Mr. Kool Aid, but it was actually like the AI comment and having animators out of work. Then that ended up being the problem. It was so funny.
I mean,
Ice Cube.
the funny thing and painful is that this is so true at the moment.
Hmm.
Like the conversation of AI is like 90% of the conversation I'm having on the visual effects and animation side. Like the threat of AI is very real. The potential to use AI is also very real. And so trying to find a balance between the two, trying to have this conversation with studios and with production companies on how to use AI, how to use ethically AI. There's so many conversations out there.
Hmm. Well, I've seen a lot of people posting on social media and stuff like that about like AI influencers. So you're scrolling around on Instagram or something like that, and you see a handsome man or a pretty girl, and they're having a coffee in a square in Rome, and they're not real. And there's millions of likes or something like that, and there's AI influencers that are getting brand endorsements now, and like these creators are actually earning money off of their AI influencers. Like that's insane. And like I have a feeling we're a couple years away from going online and seeing like a travel influencer walk around the streets of Rome or Florence and not knowing if that person's real or not.
It's sadly true.
Yeah. In which case I'm out of a fucking job too.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I mean, it's in all those situations, all those conversations about I can't stop but think about my mom and being like, she's gonna be lost in this world. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
like you look at the older generation that's already struggling to adapt to the internet and mobile phones, and now the fact that any single image or video online could or could not be true
Mhm.
is gonna be really tough.
Yeah. And you think about your mom, like you and I are probably around the same age. The amount of change we're gonna see from where we are now
Yeah,
to where our
absolutely.
parents are is gonna be astro fucking nomical. Like, it's gonna be on steroids.
I mean, I don't know. It's funny. I have this conversation with my wife so many times. I, I don't know how to adapt
Mhm.
fast enough. Like I don't want to feel old, and not as a matter of age or anything. But I'd never want to face that situation where I'm like in front of a technology and I'm like, this is magic. I don't know how to figure this out.
Yeah,
Um, but with AI, I feel like it's quickly coming.
it is. Yeah,
Like,
and
I
it
feel like 10 years from now, there'll be some new types of technology where it'll be like witchcraft for me.
so I did hear that, people are using AI to write books now, and and on Amazon, you can self-publish and create a digital ebook, and then you can do like a print on demand thing.
Yeah.
And there's so many books being created on Amazon using AI now that it's like completely out of control. And there's so much bullshit that's now like in the Amazon book ecosystem that people are like being really turned off by it. And like, what if that happens on YouTube, or what, like you said, like, can YouTube handle the amount of content creation if AI does, reach a level of sophistication where you can type in like create a 30-minute television show of Ryan Pyle trekking through Papua New Guinea along the Kokoda Trail, which was the trail used when the Australians fought the Japanese in World War II.
I have to
Ryan
try it on
Ryan's
ChatGPT tonight.
Ryan's trek was very difficult, and there were moments where he wanted to turn back and blah blah blah. Go, and then it creates a 30-minute TV show where I go and do that. Like how is it 3 years away, 5 years away, 10 years away? Like it's going to be sooner than we think.
It's so hard to give prediction when it gets to time with AI. I'm sure it's the same for you, but like 2 years ago, I feel like I was giving predictions, and then 6 months later, those predictions were gone.
Yeah.
And so it's the hardest part of the AI phase. It's just realizing like you're a day away from like massive transformations.
Mhm.
Like I feel like every single morning I wake up and there's a new model and it can do X, which was impossible before.
Mhm.
I don't know where it's gonna stop. Um, I do generally worry about like an overload of
Mhm.
content. not just on YouTube, but like absolutely everywhere. I mean, suddenly, when things that would take 10 months to produce can be produced in an hour or two. Um,
Let's do 5 a day.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And,
Mm.
the fact that,
I made a feature film last week. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen. Yeah.
but imagine the volume of content
Mhm.
when billions of people have access to this tool where they can make a feature film in a week,
Yeah, that's wild, or even a day.
or even a day. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Um,
scary. It's happening though. Like, I really feel like there's people out there that wanna build these tools.
yeah. And to me, it goes back to that aspect of curation,
Mhm.
which is the central part for New Yonder. I think if we move into that phase where more and more content is going to overload platforms like YouTube or platforms like Vimeo, what you need is quote unquote a safe curation.
Yeah. And who holds the keys to that kingdom?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Ted
that.
Sarandos? Like, I mean, like, is that who's gonna, is that gonna be the kingmaker of what's real and what's not?
I think there's going to be multiple.
Yeah.
Like I think there's not going to be a single king in this town.
Mhm.
Um, if we're still in this town. Um, but I think when it gets to content, there's gonna be a massive need for curation.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I do see that even the big streamers, again, Netflix being a good example, I do see them slowly moving away from having so much content on their platform to having more and more curation.
Yeah. And hopefully more travel and adventure.
Hopefully more travel and adventure. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the risk again with curation on particularly on those platforms is it means less and less work for the people working here.
Or maybe just a channel or a subcategory for New Yonder.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the next stage is some kind of curated platform that pulls the best stuff from multiple streaming platforms. Like we haven't seen that yet, right? We haven't seen like a best of the best aggregator. Netflix Netflix actually started like that. Like they made a bunch of their own stuff and then they pulled a bunch
They
of
were
stuff.
massively aggregators.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the beginning, and now they just make all their own shit.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting if that aggregator model comes back where people are curating, the best kind of cool stuff from Netflix, the best stuff from HBO or whatever like that, and putting it on this new platform, so that you're not so bogged down with choice. Because like I have a ritual. Like on Sundays, I do nothing.
Yeah.
Like one day a week, I fry my brain and my brain is fried from a busy, busy week. And like Sundays, I do absolutely nothing. Like I don't look at my computer. I try not to look at my phone. I don't try to interact with too many people. Maybe I go for a walk. I go for a hike in the morning. But, but, but then I want to like just sit down and like watch some great movies or some television or something like that. Right. And, and, and I'm bombarded with just too much choice. Like there's just so much stuff out there. Like it would be nice to have an elevated, curated platform that's pulling the best stuff from a few different places.
So it's actually a lot of the user feedback that we're seeing on New Yonder so far. A lot of people are coming to the platform, and a lot of the reviews that we've seen from people are just going like, "I was so tired of Netflix. Like, I'm so glad I get to be on a platform like New Yonder." And talking about safe aspect of New Yonder, of the fact that the content is really curated, we have one small feature that I find really interesting is we have this feature called Take Me Anywhere. And so as you start scrolling down the platform, there's a big banner that says Take Me Anywhere. And that's for the people that are like, you know what, I'm sure it's gonna be good. So if you click Take Me Anywhere, it just randomly takes you to any of our content.
Yeah.
And it's really for the people that are tired of doom scrolling and just constantly like trying to find something.
Yeah.
So if you trust New Yonder, you trust the content, you're like, just take me anywhere. I'll watch something.
That's a good bit of trust to build up on, for your
Oh yeah.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it's a two-way aspect. Obviously, we want people to trust us, but we have to gain that trust as well.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, so where can people find New Yonder?
Well, the Neander is available on 7 different platforms. So we have the web where neander.tv is the name for the platform. It's on iOS and Android. It's on Google TV, Samsung TVs, Roku, Fire TVs, and Apple TV.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's pretty well rounded. And all of it is branded New Yonder. Like you haven't started
that's right. Yeah.
distributing onto other platforms. You're keeping it all in one place.
Yeah, we're keeping it all on Yonder at the moment, because again, the most important aspect for us is curation,
Mhm.
and so we want people to come to Yonder just so they can have a nice clean selection of content.
Yeah.
What we don't want is be yet another part of selection within another giant catalog of content.
A little bubble of quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to avoid. So that's why, it's a standalone platform, standalone service, really because we want to offer that curated aspect.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, I mean, is there anything we didn't touch on today? You feeling good?
Oh, I feel like we've touched about a lot of subjects. Yeah.
Yeah. We went off on a bit of a tangent with AI. I love that though. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like every conversation goes off on a tangent about AI.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. But look, I wish you the best of luck with New Yonder. I think niche streaming platforms are absolutely the future because again, there's too much stuff out there, and I have a feeling like these curated niche streaming platforms are the future to break through all the noise. And I really hope that New Yonder does everything they can to support travel and adventure and give audiences a safe place to find what they're looking for and give filmmakers and storytellers a place to reach those audiences.
Well, look, man, that it means a lot for
Mm.
you saying that coming from you. Funny side joke. But you posted something in must have been 2018 on social media.
Oh shit, I should delete all that stuff.
It was either Instagram, LinkedIn, I can't remember which one. But you had this wonderful post where you were saying, like, a sort of, I don't care about all the monies in the world. What I want is travel.
Mm.
Um, and last week, actually, I found a screenshot of your post in my phone
Oh
that I
really?
had starred and saved from 2018.
Yeah.
So look, it means a lot what you're saying when you're yonder because your content, what you do has always been a great inspiration for me and for a platform like Yonder.
Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna have to go back and figure out what exactly I said. But no, I think I've always been a big believer. Like, travel is the one thing you spend money on that you don't end up poorer afterwards. Like,
Exactly.
you're investing in
Absolutely.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a critical part. Like again, with my kids, they've been fortunate already to been on so many countries, but I've been clear with my daughter, my oldest. Like the mission for us is for her to go to the 7 continents before she's 18. Like I want to send her off when she's 18, having traveled, known all the cultures in the world.
I think it should be everyone's goal to raise their children as global citizens, which means they know and understand what's going on everywhere else. And if you have the chance to live and work on a few continents, I think that's amazing too. Like I grew up in Toronto. I lived and worked in Shanghai. I lived and worked in Dubai. I lived and worked in Switzerland. Now I'm here in LA. Like, maybe next I'll go to Buenos Aires. Like I'll just keep moving around. And the great thing is the more you travel and the more you see, the more comfortable you are everywhere. Like I could pick up tomorrow and move to Argentina and just get a job and set up and be totally fine there. Because like who you are, you don't get too worried about things. You know what it's like to get visas and bank accounts and settle in and deal with rent and deal with leases and I just feel like people who know how to travel around and know how to see the world and deal with problems in different countries and different languages, those are the people you want, to be leading companies or leading countries, or those are the people you want to have as your friends because those are people who have seen what it's like out there in the world and then can bring those stories back home.
And it's funny because you get to that level and you're kind of okay being an outsider. Because I'm sure it's the same for you. Like wherever I go, I'm always going to be an outsider.
Even
And
here in LA.
even here in LA, and the weirdest aspect is even if I decide to move back to France, even if I decide to move back to suburbs of Basel,
Mhm.
I'll be an outsider there
Yeah.
just from having been abroad. Like the first step is the hardest part. Like my move to London was probably the hardest and most daunting. After that, it's just another pack up and go. It's easy. I mean, it's like I have a very international family almost by accident.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously I'm French. My wife is Russian. My daughter was born in England. My son's American. Dinner table is like a UN summit for us. Um,
Where nothing gets done.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's pretty much the same. It's the French shouting at everyone.
Right.
Um, but really, the reality is like the first step moving abroad was the hardest part.
Mhm.
From this point, like I'm happy living anywhere. I'm happy. Like I love learning about different cultures. I've got the chance to spend so much time in Japan over the past few years and really enjoyed discovering Japanese culture. Um, but I want to keep doing that. Like I want to keep learning about different cultures. Like and just I like being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think about my journey too. It's like the first so when I was 22, I moved to Shanghai, China. And
That must have been daunting. I mean, come on, like at 22 moving to China.
I was
Did,
up for it.
did you speak Chinese?
No. I didn't know anyone there, didn't have any friends, whatever. But, you just go and you figure it out. But I feel like everything after that has just been so fucking easy.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
It's like I've done China.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I gotta live in LA for a bit? Okay, no problem. Like, LA is a laugh compared to Shanghai. Like,
yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
yeah, it's wild. But that's the thing. It's like you wanna give young people this confidence to go out and see the world and live in different places and work with people of different backgrounds and different ethnicities and different religions and learn how to get shit done with people who don't speak the same language, don't believe in the same things you believe, but still find common ground to execute projects, work together, strive, be successful.
You, I think the main thing you learn from travel is you learn to be uncomfortable.
Mm.
You learn to be in different countries with different systems, public transports, languages, all of these, and you learn to be uncomfortable with that aspect.
Embrace the discomfort.
It's exactly that.
Mm.
And I feel like once you've accepted being uncomfortable while traveling, you always accept being uncomfortable. And that's the way to progress. Like I keep saying to my wife, like there is things I don't like doing and I do it because it makes me uncomfortable and because I'm gonna learn from that. Like it's the best way. Otherwise I'm just gonna lay in bed and play video games every day.
Yeah, and there's an industry for that too.
Yes, there's a big industry for that.
Well, look, I can't thank you enough for coming by the podcast today. I wish all your animated visual effects businesses, I hope New Yonder is successful, and I hope we can promote it and get more people subscribing and just get more people engaging with this kind of storytelling because I think there's a real lack of it out there in the space. And thanks for being an inspiration.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate that.
So now we could just go up here so people can see we're in the same room. Shake it out.
There you go.
Yeah, come back anytime, man. Great chat.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.
And we're out.